one of our visions is to, our organisation to be representative of Australian society, right? So all aspects of diversity, but clearly gender is, a particularly big one. But for us, really it's around the theme of innovation. We think to be innovative, we have to have a complete range of diverse set of views, perspectives, to be sharper around ideas, solutions, if you think about our business in client service. And so having access to that broader set of capability is just kind of a no-brainer, right, for us. But we do have some challenges because a lot of the areas that we work in, if you think about technology, engineering still, the pool around STEM, not where we wanted to be. So there are some challenges, but a real commitment by the organisation because it is good for our people. It's good for our clients and the solutions we come up with for our clients. Therefore, it's good for our business. So yeah, it's pretty clear for us. We've been on this journey for quite a while, actually, probably the full 20 years that I've been here and remember. And it started with conversations at that senior level about the business case and about what our expectations were of our leaders around getting equity in the workplace. But some of the earlier things were we had a development program for high potential women. We focused on our very large graduate intake every year to make sure that that was gender balanced at the start. And then we worked around our culture to, around policies, leading examples of people in roles to create a culture where women could thrive. The other important thing I think we did is we did align ourselves to the WGEA criteria, and they've obviously raised the bar over the years, and that's helped us on that journey over that time period. The first one for us is getting, if you think about our firm, we're made up of a large number of partners that are all owners in the business. So the first thing for us is getting all of our leaders on board. And the real examples, again, I've been here for 20 years, 4 different CEOs. That's always been from CEO down, that narrative. The other specific example around that would be mandatory inclusive training over the past decade. And so kind of really sets the tone with the partners about, what's important. The second thing for me would be probably around market sensing and people sensing. So, when you want to be a leader in something, you have to continuously look at what is best practice, what are the new ideas locally, nationally, globally, and that's something that we do a lot of. And then in terms of listening to our people internally, lots of forums, people forums, surveys, different ways of engaging our people to listen to the ideas around what would help our people, right? That's what it's about. So that would be probably the second thing. The third thing for me is visibility. So, and what I mean by that, visibility and transparency, making sure that the gender equity topic is front and center of all aspects of the decisions, right? So whether that's hiring, whether that's development programs, whether that's particular roles, whether that's eminence programs, just having it front and center visible, because I believe visibility and transparency really helps sort of address the natural bias that's there and elevates sort of the conversation. Yeah, and again, this is probably a tougher question, but we feel like at different points along that journey, most things have had an impact, but we're really conscious about balancing the big strategic priorities and the policies versus the day-to-day execution of decisions and accountability around that in order to make a real change. If we look at ourselves, with a bit of a harsh lens, I think that's the bit that we still have work to do, right? Again, a large number of partners that are tasked with leading this business, and the accountability at that level to hit the targets that we've set, to run the programs that we set, to live the behaviors, that is where we still could improve significantly to have a bigger impact. Again, I think there's been a number, but maybe if I could reflect on just two more recent ones. The first one would be around our Deloitte Flex policy. So that was something that was in place just before the pandemic. Obviously, that expanded it and accelerated some of the things that we were putting in place in that. But we don't have any sort of mandatory requirements around where our people work. We trust them to make great decisions about how best to execute their work, but always in the framework of what's best for our clients, for the team that they're working in, and for them as individuals. Now, whilst that benefits all of our employees, men and women, and people flex in all different types of ways, we still know that right now the women are still the primary caregivers in a lot of cases. And so that has been really key to providing the flexibility to both retain and attract women talent into the organisation. So that would be one. The second one, I think, would be our return to work support program. So again, I mentioned the listening sessions. One of the things that came out from those sessions was that when people return from parental leave, they felt quite a large amount of stress around financial pressure, the time away from the family and balancing that, KPIs that they had to hit within their roles. And so this policy is both financial, so where someone returns part-time 3 or 4 days a week, we will pay them an extra day. And then there is an opportunity for them to have a conversation with their leaders around the KPIs that should be adjusted for where they're at. Two benefits for me, direct to the women that are taking leave and coming back, but also we're seeing much more take-up of this by the men in our organisation. And I think it's giving them much more of an insight around part-time and the challenges of balancing that. And I think that will help them become more inclusive leaders as they move forward too. The last year has been more about, and I touched on it in terms of where we hadn't had as much impact as we wanted. So we've reset our focus, if you like, on targets. All right? Targets and accountability of hitting those targets. Again, through those lenses of whether it's our hiring, whether it's our development, whether it's our other programs. And so that's the real focus. We're really pleased that we've got to our 40% target at the board and the national executive level. But the other leadership teams and the broader partner group and the level below that, we're still struggling to get to where we want. We've got a really great pipeline because our manager and below levels are already at 50%. And so we're trying to pull whatever levers we can to ensure that that representation comes up through into those higher, director and partner levels. I believe you have to start and acknowledge your own bias. I grew up in an environment that was very traditional, role-based. I had to reprogram how I thought, how I looked at roles, how I spoke, all of those things, right? I think you have to start there. The second thing for me was then educate myself a bit better. And there's lots of stuff you can, obviously access now and read. But actually really listening to those women that you have around you in your life. So for me, my wife, my daughter, and some of my amazing colleagues I have here at Deloitte sort of really helped me on that journey. I think the third thing for me would be, like any change, be really clear about where you want to get to. Have some really tangible measures around the initiatives you put in place to get you there. And be accountable to someone around those measures. And maybe lastly for me would be, if you stand right back, policies are great, but they just provide the framework. The real change only comes if you have leaders that truly believe and have a desire to make an impact.